Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Devin Rex for Art here. Today I'm going to do a flip through of this new book I got from Collage Soup. Well, it's not a new book for her, but it's new to me. And I haven't been able to find a flip through of this, so I thought I'm going to order it and I'll do a flip through for y'all and maybe do a project with it. I wanted to get this one because it's 90 fancy black and white and color collage papers. So I do like using the black and white from this version, neither here nor there. And I've done a lot of image transfers using this book on the gel plate. So I wanted to see what this one was like. So we're going to start this flip through and see what appeals to us. So if you're not familiar with Collage Soup books, a lot of the, well, all the art is pretty much AI generated. So if that's not for you, then that's not for you. But I like it in terms of you can use individual products, individual elements, copyright free. So that's kind of one of the great things. Also, you can cut these elements. They are double-sided. So what my plan for this book is, I'll probably do the image transfer of the black and white side, and then keep this side to cut out and collage on something. So I'll just do like a flip through. So it's some botanicals, some leaves. Again, we got the black and white and the color. And you can also use these for inspiration. So let's say you want to do some doodling. You can, look in here and get some ideas for that. So just going to do a quick flip through. And then just to see what images are in here, see if it appeals to you. And then I'll probably do an image transfer and maybe incorporate that into a project of some kind. I don't know what that's going to be yet. So there's lots of, it's a nice variety I'm finding. You've got botanicals, you've got people, you've got items, objects. You've got text, font, you've got realistic and unreal and surrealistic, if that's a word. And I think there's a bit of something for everybody in here. And you got some cool color wheels that make a cool background. I love rocks. I like how there's different elements in that color wheel. Same with this one. We've got like feathers or just interesting textures. And that's kind of cool. These are kind of freaky, so that's not for everybody, but if I did an image transfer with that with some interesting colors, I could cut them out maybe for my Halloween journal. Got some food, some creepy things, sort of kind of text, but not really, sort of abstract text. More food. We've got sort of some stylized pens, staples, more like font, which, there's S's, but really there's more like squiggles. Some art supplies. Those would be hard to work with. Look how short those little nubbins are. I like her. I might use her. That's kind of calling to me. And then maybe use some of the crayons as a background around her, perhaps. We will see. Now some houses, more faces. So if you're looking for sort of a general book to use for collage or for inspiration, I think I am happy with this book. So check it out. This is available on Amazon. It's also available from her website, collagesoup.com. And she has, on her website, you also have digitals you can buy. But with I don't have a laser printer, so I do like to have the original black and white for image transferring. I'm going to test these to see if they work well. You need sort of special, sort of shiny ink and high contrast for that to work. So I hope you found this flip through helpful in deciding whether or not you want to purchase this book. And if you just want to see the flip through, that's done. I'm going to do a second section here that's going to have a project. Feel free to stay for that. make a comment, share the video, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching this part, and stay tuned for part 2. So here we are at part 2, the project. So I'm going to start off doing an image transfer using this lady here. I like the stripes in there, and I like how I think I'm going to pair it with those pencil crayons. And I cut out this page of patterns because I wanted to do a test page. Now when I do a transfer using Collage Soup Books, I like using this Golden's fluid carbon black or other golden fluids. I just find that something about it dries the right way to do the transfer in these books. When I do magazine transfers, I tend to use the Liquitex Basics. I don't know why there's a difference, but this carbon black does give a pretty good black contrast, and you don't need to get it quite as thin as the Liquitex Basics when you're doing magazines. So I've just rolled it out a bit, and then the trick is you have to push down, get all the bubbles out, and not leave it too long. So I'm just pushing it down. I'm being careful not to get any paint on the front surface of the picture because I want to use that as well. And then peel it up. So it wasn't on there long at all. That was real time. Notice how you can still see the shiny image on that piece of paper on the left. So you can reuse these papers to do extra transfers, and I will show the prints that I did with that later. For this picture, I'm going to let the paint dry, and I'm going to color it using these pan pastels, which are basically like a soft pastel in a powder form, really creamy. If you don't have pan pastels, you can use eyeshadow from the drugstore or dollar store. They're not quite as pigmented, but they work similarly. So I'm going to use colors inspired by these 2 images on the left that I'm going to incorporate into my project. And it's very simple. You just use the tools provided with the pan pastels, and you just brush the pigment on. So I kind of going to fast forward through some of this. You can see I did the eyes with the blues. I'm putting some purple in her hair and some magenta. Now whatever you put down first is what's going to show the most on the finished print, because when you pick this up, you lay your paint over it and you pull it up. So whatever goes down first is what you're going to see the most of. So you have to keep that in mind when you're using the pan pastels. And we're just kind of doing like a rainbow order, similar to what the pencil crayons have. And I'm doing her lips in the magenta. And then I think I do give her a little cheek, some little rosy cheeks there. Just keep going, and you can take your time. This is sped up, obviously, otherwise this video would be super duper long. It's already going to be pretty long, and because the black, there was some graininess to it, I go ahead and I put the pan pastel even behind the black. Now you do want to make sure your paint's dry before you start adding the pan pastel, because you don't want to contaminate your tool. And in between the colors, you can't see, but off camera I am just rubbing that soft tool onto a paper towel to get most of that pigment off so I can pick up another color. Now some of this is going to get ripped off in the final project. I'm putting some whites behind on the white of her eyes because I'm going to pick this up with a colored paint. And here I'm just giving her some more eyeshadow, and I think I put some orange on as well. Now this is where I make a mistake. My tool wasn't fully clean, and I wanted to put a white highlight, but there was actually still some dark color on my tool. So when I pull this, she kind of has like black on her nose, so I end up going over afterwards and painting it out. If I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have had to paint over the image. So here, I think this is a portrait pink color, just Artist Loft, not very expensive, and I'm picking up with 32-pound Hammermill premium color copy paper. And that I let that sit to dry for quite a few minutes before pulling it. And here you can see the mess that I made of her nose. So this is where I go ahead and I just use a paintbrush right away just to paint that out. I kind of, I get a bit finicky with it. Had I not done that extra little step with the pastels, I wouldn't have had to do this step. But while I'm doing it, I take the time and I decide to kind of blend out some of the cheeks and that orange under her eye. So I'm pretty happy with how this turned out otherwise. And I like sort of the rainbow colors around it. Now, if you look at the Gelli plate on the left, you see there's lots of pigment left over. So I do multiple pulls. I do some extra image transfers. So I do use up some of that pigment, and I will show at the end some of the extra prints that I got from that. I just didn't have enough time to show you all those steps in this video. And here, this is how I clean off once I've gotten several ghost prints. I just put some baby oil on there and wipe it off with a baby wipe. So here I've got a round canvas. I'm inspired by Dee Willingham to do this round shape. I found this canvas at the dollar store, and I'm just showing how I used water on the back surface and dried it to kind of make it more tight. And it was $2.75 at the dollar store, and I just prepped it with this Dina Wakley black gesso, which is a really nice consistency and very dark. And I also did the edges as well. So it's a 12-inch canvas, round canvas we're going to use. I'm just showing you my image transfer. These are the 2 pages from the Collage Soup I'm going to use. I did scan them into my computer to use later. This is the test page that I talked about earlier. I did a couple pulls using some wet strength carnival tissue. I did one using purple and pulled it with blue, and then I did one with black and I pulled it with pinks and oranges. I don't use that in the project, but I wanted to show you what we did there. And I did some additional image transfers. So here's one where I did the image transfer back onto the plate. This other blue one was with an open paint. This is showing just some extra ghost pulls that I got and how you can rip the paper up to use the little bit of pigment even if you don't have like the full image on there, if that makes sense. Now, I didn't know how, I've never done a round canvas before, so what I did is I did a photocopy of my transfer, and then I cut it, and I did a copy of the 2 pencil crayon and those little crayon nubs. I did a photocopy of those as well, and I thought I would use that to kind of do a mock-up of my layout. So I tore up some pieces, I cut some pieces, I put them on the canvas on white, and then what I did was I took a photo of that and I imported it into my Procreate program on my iPad. So I'm showing you here, and then I added effects of what I might do with that. So that's version 1, and then this is version 2. So I added a little round sun. And the version 3, I added 2 extra suns. So that's the one I decided I liked the best. So now I feel more confident. I'm just going to go ahead and rip the original print. And Dee Willingham explains that when you rip paper, it's easier to blend it in. So this project is inspired by Dee Willingham. I'll link her below. Just check her out. She's an amazing mixed media collage artist, as well as, she does lots of other arts as well, coloring and drawing, and just very inspiring. So here we have our paper. Now it's a bit, because it's a 32 pound, it's a bit thicker than what's ideal for collage. So you will see the edge of that paper in the final piece, but this is just for me to use, in my art studio. Now here I'm trying to figure out where the placement is going to be compared to my mock-up that I did in Procreate. So I think I'm happy with it there. And I'm going to use the Ultra Matte Gel to adhere the paper, but I'm going to combine it with the Golden Matte Medium, which is what's in that dish soap bottle. So again, I'm just confirming the placement. And I put the Ultra Matte Gel Medium on the back of the paper because it's a bit of a thicker paper and I don't want it to wrinkle too much. So I'm spreading it nice and thin, and then I use the Golden Matte Medium on the canvas. I need to put more in that dish soap bottle. And then with the brush, I just spread that around. And then I plop it on, and I put more of the Golden Matte Medium on top of the paper, because it's acrylic paint and it's pan pastel. When you pick up pan pastel with acrylic paint, it basically seals the pan pastel. So I'm not worried about it smudging. So then you want to cover the surface of the paper with the matte medium. And then Dee Dee explains that you need to mash it down very well. So in a moment, once I've got all that matte medium on there, I'm going to use a silicone scraper to mash it down. Now, Dee Dee does a lot of things on wooden discs. I don't think she's done a canvas, like a round canvas. So you can see on the bottom right, I don't know if you can see that little bit of a line from when I smudged it down. So I'm more careful when I'm doing some of the other pieces. And then I decide I'm going to wrap the extra paper around the edges of the canvas. Again, using a lot of that matte medium. And then I'm going to try to get some of the air bubbles out. I put my hand underneath the canvas to support it, and I kind of scrape it with my hand and with the scraper, trying to get all those bubbles out. It's not perfect, but it's good enough. There's a spot in the green that there's a big bubble, and I try to slice it open to get the bubble out, but it doesn't really work, and that gets covered by the collage anyhow, so I'm not too worried about that. You can see I kind of gouged the paper, but that's okay. So give it a good dry before we do the next layers. So here I'm using the photocopy to help me cut out the original paper from the Collage Soup. So I have an inkjet printer. If I tried to use a matte medium with that photocopy, it would probably run and smear. So that's why I'm using the original. I did do scans. I don't know if I mentioned this already. I did scan in the original into my computer in case I want to print it out for another project, but I'd have to seal it to use it in this type of way. And then I'm ripping up some mountains, again inspired by Dee Dee Willingham. She does a lot of abstract landscape surrealistic collages. So I'm making some little mountains based on my prototype there. So I'm trying to replicate my prototype, but not exactly. So then I use this orange jelly print to make my suns, and I use these die cut shapes that I have, but they have like stitching details in them, so I just trace them and then I cut them with scissors instead of using the actual die cutting machine. I do alter them. They are a bit too big, so later I do alter them and make them a little bit smaller, like right here actually. So I make it, I just found it was too big. So I take the one that's at the top, put it at the bottom, and then the one up there, I make it even smaller. So here I'm making the pencil crayons into more of a mountain shape. So I'm cutting them apart so that I can stagger them up and down. Seeing how it looks. And I think the top circle, I think I still feel it's too big and I cut it down a bit. Oh, I do cut out some of those little nubbins, but I didn't show doing that, so that's what that little insert was. So yeah, so here I'm making that circle, that top sun, just a little bit smaller. Just felt like it was too big still. You can always cut it down, but you can't make it bigger unless you start over, which is fine. So now I'm taking these pieces off, and I'm going to use some craft paint to blend in the edges of the image transfer. And again, because that paper is a bit of a thicker paper, it is not a seamless blend, let's say. But if you want to see how to blend, check out Dee Dee's channel. And I'm going to blend out the different colors. I had some craft paints pulled, but then I decided to use my grabby acrylic markers instead. So you'll see me pull those out in just a second. And I'm using a baby wipe. Dee Dee uses her fingers and she uses baby wipes to make things kind of wispy. So I'm doing that style, and I'm using a little bit of brush as well. I think I paint some of that back with the black paint to kind of blend it in a bit more. Sorry, this is all voiceover. You know, it was such a long process and it was very active in my house and noisy, so I thought it'd be easier just to put this on, fast forward, and do my voiceover. So there's my grabby markers. So I have the swatch sheet. Later I show you the swatch sheet on black paper, which gives a better idea of what colors I should be picking, because I am working on a black canvas. So I just take my time and just blending, and having lots of fun. So these little nubbins on the left, I kind of think of them as like rocket ships or meteors or whatever. So I put them where I think they're going to go. And then I use the grabby acrylic marker to kind of give their swooshes of color. And I soften that with my fingers or the baby wipe to give it more of a mist type of feeling. And I decide to highlight the orange circles to make them more similar to the circles I did in my little mock-up there. So they're all a little bit more uniform, but still kind of, jelly print grungy. And then we're adding some star splatter. So what Dee does is she takes the white craft paint, puts a bit of water, and then uses a floppy brush to do the splatter for stars. I'm not very good at this, but I try. She makes it look easier than it is, I think. So I add splatters and I add more splatters. But because of the matte medium, anywhere the splatter goes that you don't want it, you can wipe it away. And I decide I need a few more, so I give it a little enhancement using a Sharpie acrylic paint marker to add a few more stars. And let that dry. Oh, I wanted to add just a little, change the shape of the wispy coming off that red crayon. And then it's time to glue down the rest of these pieces. So again, it's matte medium on the canvas, matte medium on the back of the image, matte medium on the top of the image. Give it a scrape with, I'm using a silicone spatula, silicone scraper, and then a bit more matte medium and smooth it out. So I kind of, I didn't show you each individual element being glued down in terms of those crayons, but you get the idea. And then I'm using that white piece of paper to help me remember where I want to put that sun. And here I'm supporting the canvas with my left hand when I scrape it so that I don't, I can scrape it more evenly. Now here I'm going to run into a little bit of trouble. Again, I cut the paper so I can wrap it around the edge, which is fine. But in a moment you'll see when I'm doing some of the pieces further to the left, I've got matte medium on my fingers and my thumb sticks to the paper on the right side and pulls off a chunk. So right here, boom, there's that big chunk. So that kind of affects where I end up putting my third sun. I'm showing just the silicone sponge that I used to get the matte medium off my fingers. So now I kind of switch my sun a bit more to the right than I wanted. I wanted it more offset from that top sun, but you just got to go with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I glue down my mountains. And then I wrap those around the edges. Again, I'm using that paper to help me remember where I want to put that mountain. You can take a picture of it. Because I was filming it, it was hard to look at the picture because I used my phone. So I just used that little piece of paper as a reminder of where I wanted that peak to be. And just use my fingers to spread some of that matte medium. And what's next? Oh, I decide to take a few extra little pieces of the paper and fill in the back, the bottom part there. Later, I think I used some acrylic marker, the grabby markers, to fill it in a bit more, but I don't think I kept that footage in. So you get the idea. So I'm just kind of trimming it as I go. Wipe my scissors. I don't want glue stuck on my scissors. And then I'm using some black acrylic paint marker, again the grabby one, just to define the edges of those mountains and give it just a little bit of grunginess. Overall, this isn't a super grungy piece, so I didn't totally grungify everything. And then here I'm using the white brush tip Sharpie acrylic marker to make my star shines. And these are a bit of a struggle for me. I just show you the first one and then I do the rest of them after. And I use the Sharpie marker to put stars along the outside. And I'm signing my work. And then using a little bit of Prisma pencils to add a little bit of color dimension to those star shines. That's something Dee Dee does as well. So if you find this an interesting process and you're not familiar with Dee Dee Willingham, I highly, highly recommend her. Check out Dee Dee's channel. I'll link it below. I think I said that already. And just adding just a few more little details. And then I let this dry, and then I varnish it using this Duraclear varnish. Dee Dee uses a gloss one. I inadvertently bought a satin finish, so I'm just going to use it up until I run out, and then I'll get the gloss one. So I just put a little dollop. This is how Dee Dee does it. So I put a little dollop in there. I give a little spritz of water, and then I spread it out with a sponge brush. And I had this Lazy Susan under there so that I could easily spread it out. And you want to do this fairly quickly before it starts to dry. So you want to get it all even and before it starts to dry, and then you just let it sit overnight to dry. So I'm just showing you the whole process here. And then you can see, if you look at it on an angle, you can't see it from this view, at an angle you can see where it's maybe missing some of the varnish. So I'm adding just a little bit more, and then I'm going up and down and then side to side to give it a nice even kind of look. And I also varnish the edges, so I'll show you a little bit of that. There we go. And then I just let it sit overnight, and here is the final piece. So I'm happy with it. I mean, it's not a totally perfect blend, but it's a nice colorful piece that I'm going to put in my art room. And thank you to Dee Dee Willingham for the inspiration, and thank you to Collage Soup for putting out these great quality books. Thanks for watching.